Okay, so I've never actually done a review of a book in video form, and I am already all over the place with any of my reviews or any of my thoughts on anything. So I even did like a little list to try to keep myself on track. So, um, if you don't want lengthy explanations on anything, then maybe this video isn't for you. Um, I am a diehard avid reader. I'm totally a bibliophile. I mean, I read something every day. That is my compulsion. I have to read something every day. Um, so like I'm really into not just like the story or quick and easy. Like I don't mind some of those kinds of novels that can do the quick and easy, like boom, here you go, and easy solution, or oh, this is what I can do. I really like character development. I really like settings. I really like interactions with characters. I really like the whole shebang. But I mean, like, I'm fine with lots of different authors and how they set things up, and different styles of writing too. I mean, the wording is a little irritating for me as far as some older novels. Even my favorite La Belle et la Bête, um, by Villeneuve, the original written in 1740. Even the way things are worded, while descriptive, the way it's very lengthy and very flowery, so it's kind of difficult to get through if you want something quick and to the point. But I absolutely love the story. I absolutely love the characters and how everything is visualized in that story, right? Um, so I love a spectrum, right, of different kinds of authors, writers, genres. Mostly I stay within the fantasy, fairy tale, sci-fi, the different sublets of fantasy and sci-fi. And it could be romance or not romance. It could be action, it could be mystery, thriller, suspense. I mean, I don't really like horror that much, but I have been known to really enjoy Goosebumps growing up and also Dean Koontz. So, you know, so I'm all over the place with stuff, right? Uh, but there are certain things that I can get very nitpicky over time, and I feel like that nitpickiness didn't exist while reading this book. So I was really happy with this book. So I'll just say that off the bat. There will be some spoilers, but not so much like the actual story, and I'm not going to tell you the ending. Um, but just talking more about the characters and the kind of character development and my thoughts on that. So that's where my head is at. So it's not really like a quick and easy like I love this and go read it. No, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. So that's just how I am. I overthink things. I'm lengthy, so that's where this video is gonna head. Um, anyway, so first and foremost, I saw the cover online. I will get many books in like hardcover or paperback, but most of the time I've been doing Kindle because it's just easier to have my phone or even one of the tablets and just be like, okay, I'm going to read this here. Um, Sometimes you have to have a physical book, but sometimes I'm okay with Kindle. Now, I would have loved to have gone and gotten the hardcover of this. However, I used money from a gift card sent to me. Now, I've been using it for mostly needed things because, going through some financial crisis things going on. But anyway, but this is my like Christmas gift and birthday gift rolled into one is what I'm considering it because it is cheaper via Kindle. It was like 16 something dollars with tax, versus the 26 to 30 something with tax at a bookstore. So for a brand new release, yeah, I definitely got the Kindle for this. I am probably shamelessly going to go and buy the hardcover one day though, just to have it in my hands. Um, but yeah, I was scrolling looking for new reads because I'm always looking for new reads. And I saw the cover and immediately I was drawn to it because glasses. I mean, I'm kind of biased that in that way. So I was like, yes, main character looks like he has glasses. Now, in the book, it's not because of his eyesight, as in, well, not directly. um, that may be part the spoiler part. That it's indirectly it does have to do with his eyesight, but not because he can't see in our world. It's more he needs that to help him not go completely insane from seeing the uncanny. I mean, it's called Elsewhere in this book, but I mean this is across the board for any kind of mythology, fantasy, like anything that's other, uncanny, elsewhere, other realm. Like, there are many different names for it, but it's pretty much just Fey realm, other realm, myths and monsters, all that kind of stuff. So anything that belongs there, that's what he's trying not to see. So so there's a reason for the glasses. There's like a very legit reason for it, but I'm biased. I was like, yes, there's glasses. I love that. Um, and then of course I was like, urban fantasy. Yes, I love urban fantasy. I love pretty much any fantasy. It can be historical fiction, it can be romance, there can be just nothing but action, suspense, murder. That's cool too. I mean, granted, Jennifer Blackstream has a lot of romance in, her novels, but I do like her urban fantasy series too. So it's not just the fairy tales retelling stuff, it's the urban fantasy I really like too. Because it's not just romance. There's a lot more going on there. This one has like inklings of what could potentially become romance between a few characters. I say few, but really a couple. I don't know though, because there could be more in upcoming books. But it's not like a central theme, which I actually really like. I am like a old school romantic. I love romance, but I also really enjoy not having romance as the center of a story. And this romance is not the center of the story. I like that there's some inklings to it, like, his feelings, Grimsby's feelings towards someone, but that's not like his central focus. That's not what he keeps going back to, and that's not the plot of the story. So, for anyone who was worried that there would be like crazy amounts of romance or whatever between the main character and someone else, it's not crazy or overbearing at all. Okay? Like, I love romance novels, I love romance themes, but I like that breath of fresh air when there's not a whole lot of romance. So if you don't like a whole lot of romance, especially out the gate, this is for you. Then I also noticed the mentioning that one of my other favorite authors, Jim Butcher, who did the Dresden Files famously, I have not read the Furies of Calder. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. I butchered that already. And then the Aeronauts Windless, which I absolutely loved. But I started reading that series in high school. Someone just randomly gave me book number 4, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And then they're like, "Oh, that's not the first book." I was like, "Why did you give me one in the middle of the series?" And they're like, "Because that's the one I had on hand. You said you wanted a book to read." It's like, okay, whatever. So I started over, and I'm not fully caught up with the Dresden Files, but I'm like 15th, 16. I'm like somewhere in the teens area of the books. Anyway, so I was like, oh, apparently he has a son. Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who was really shocked by that. I'm not one of those uber fans that like gets really entrenched in someone's background or like their birthday or their zodiac sign or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people weren't, but even if you were, I think a lot of people were still shocked to find out that Jim Butcher has a son. And his name is James J. Butcher. So I was like, okay, carrying on the James. I mean, my oldest son's middle name is James. I mean, it is a family name. So, I mean, there you go. But I was like, okay, I'm glad there's that J in the middle, James J. Butcher, because that distinctly shows him as different than his father. So I'm glad for that. I mean, it's a good plug though if like your father is a famous author and it's like, hey, here's my breakout novel, and I mean, I hope he's not like upset, or I don't know, but like that, hey, like, yes, I will use this to promote this. I'm not ashamed of that. I hope that's the case because it's good marketing. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, you know what? I want to read this for this, just because I was immediately drawn to the cover and was like, ooh, urban fantasy. The fact that he's related to one of my favorite authors, great, but that's not going to be the basis of my review or how I feel about the book. Because I like to look at things individually as they are and for their own merits. That's just the kind of person I am. So I was looking at this like, all right, fresh urban fantasy, how do I feel about it? Okay, I would have finished the book in probably 4-ish hours, except I work full time and I'm a single parent, and one of my kids happens to be home right now this week. So, yeah, I definitely couldn't sit and read it constantly like I wanted to. I am a fast reader. I wouldn't say that I am like crazy good at speed reading, but I am a quick reader. So, I started at like 9 a.m. my time and then continued for like 3-ish, like almost 2-ish hours, and then had to have a lot of breaks in between, like, work and stuff. Me working from home at a call center currently, I can like kind of read in between like calls coming in, so that's not too bad. But yeah, no, I had to put my phone down often, so I didn't finish as quickly as I would have liked. I was really into it, and I was very frustrated anytime I got interrupted, but I was like, I can't just put this off until I happen to have time. No, I am going to fit as much time as possible, any chance I get, to read as much of this as possible. So that's what I've been doing all day. And then I finished it and then immediately gave it a 5-star and then immediately wrote out a review and used up all the space that I had available from my phone. And then, of course, it says, we'll review and then hopefully we'll post. And I was like, darn. So I go online and I see that someone else left a review. And of course, theirs is first. I thought I was going to be first because they didn't have any reviews when I started posting mine. But of course, theirs is first because theirs is short and sweet and to the point. Just like, oh, this is awesome, and I can't wait for the next one. And me, I'm like, I'm not one of those short and sweet kind of people when it comes to reviews. I'm very lengthy, and I drone on. I give good insight and great points, and yet, because it is lengthy, that's probably why it's going to be reviewed for days before they actually post my review on Amazon. So, okay. And then I decided to do this video. And it's already seeming like a disaster. I'm looking at the time. I was like, ugh, already I've been blabbing on. But anyway, that was a lead up to me reading it. And then me reading it and loving it. But again, I'm lengthy. So, had to do a little list to kind of keep myself on track. I'll say this, that it does read kind of like a murder mystery in a way. It has that vibe, which I'm totally fine with. I love those. Like, I mean, come on. I grew up reading Goosebumps, but also, I mean, even though it's not exactly murder mystery, but I mean, it's like mystery and kind of like suspense horror. But Agatha Christie and Sue Grafton were also two of my favorites. And then, oh my gosh, there's quite a few others. And my mind is blanking right now as I'm doing this video, but I'll probably remember later. But anyway, I had lots of other ones. So I did like the mystery suspense or murder mystery or whatever. Agatha Christie was definitely on the top there. So it does read kind of like that, where it's like, okay, I'm being accused of this and I have to solve this murder because I'm definitely innocent and I do not want to be pinned for this. That's not a new concept. That's been around forever. But the way that this is constructed, it feels refreshing. And I think it's because of the characters themselves, the way they're crafted and their development. Even in the first book. Now, there are so many unanswered questions I have about certain characters. Mostly the huntsman. Oh my goodness, so many questions. Some about Grimsby. There's some answered that I guessed, but there's still a lot, actually. And I feel like there are little hidden breadcrumbs when it comes to his magical abilities in the book. At least that's how I feel. I feel like it's going to be expanded more in other books. But okay. Anyway, yeah, so it's definitely like kind of that murder mystery vibe. There's definitely a lot of action. There's constant like this poor guy, this character. I mean, I'm a writer too, and I hate this, but at the same time, I'm like, ooh, some of my characters are put through the ringer, and I must be a horrible person because I'm just like, I have a little bit of glee giving them all this angst and grief because it definitely furthers them and it furthers the story. But at the same time, I feel slightly guilty because I'm like, is that too much? Is that too much? Should I gear it back? Um, Poor Grimsby. Poor Grimsby. This guy has been through so much in such a short span of time. And I honestly, it is very refreshing to see him react the way he does throughout the book because it's very realistic that if you get, I mean, granted, he's not exactly normal. He's not a usual, okay? I mean, he's technically an unorthodox, though his lineage is thrown into question in the middle of the book. And I was like, that may play a part one day in another book. So I don't know, but throwing that aside, he has some magic, so he's not like just a normal human, right? He ain't a muggle, so there we go. But any average person who, even if you've gone through a bit of trauma, and me myself, I've gone through trauma like at a young age and even into adulthood, even if you've gone through that, like even if you've experienced something to where it's like you just kind of get used to it, which really sucks, it's horrible. Um there's a limit. There are boundaries, okay? To the degree that you can deal with some of those things. And Grimsby is just like he's literally at the end of his rope and then not even at the end of the rope, but he falls. He plummets. Like it is so awful for him throughout the book. And like there are parts where I'm like wincing and cringing and just like, oh, buddy, I really, and me being accident prone and having injured myself plenty of times throughout my life, there are moments where I had to just avert my eyes from the screen of my phone because I was like, I can feel that in my bones. Oh, I can feel that in my ankle. I can feel, oh, my knees are hurting just reading this. Ow, these phantom pains are coming back. So, yeah, so this guy suffers so much. I feel bad laughing about that right now, but it's just like it's I don't know how else to react. Um, but it is so natural that as a normal person you would react like the way he reacts in the book. Like he's just like, I am fed up and I am not cut out for this, and this is beyond me, and he is so overwhelmed. Um, and I get that that leaves the potential for character development in general, that he could become better or further himself as time goes on. But at the same time, it's refreshing to see a character that doesn't automatically know everything, that isn't secretly like the top dog that is in an underdog position, because I see that in a lot of media and it's really irritating where you put someone in this position that seems like it's an underdog position, but technically they are secretly very powerful. They do have the skill set that's needed for this one challenge. Like, oh, this one skill set will finally be put to use. And it's like, I'm not going to tell you the ending of the book. I mean, you would think that by the end of the book, they would find who the killer is and bring him to justice or whatever. In a way, yeah, but there's a lot of unanswered stuff. A lot of unanswered questions, even about the killer, even about the roles that people were playing, and not just the one that they would out as the killer. So, I mean, there's still a lot of mystery going on. There's still the way it's left. I was like, ooh, that twist. Urgh. The way that's, if you pay attention long enough after reading enough of fantasy and sci-fi, and if you know enough of mythology, if you know enough about like the Fae realm and about Fae in general, or about uncanny creatures, if you know enough about that kind of stuff, you can see kind of hints here or there throughout this book that kind of looks at, ooh, the way that they worded that makes me think this. And at the end, you're like, ah, okay, I kind of guessed some of it, but not all of it. Like, that was a nice twist. So, okay. But it just, okay. So I kind of lost track as I was saying this. But anyway, I was going down a route. Oh my gosh. Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay. I figured out where I was going with this. Okay. So I meant to, before I lost track, I meant to say that, Grimsby doesn't necessarily become more powerful. Okay, he's not like the ultimate top dog by the end of this book. The way that everything ends, it leaves potential for something further, but he's not the top dog. He's not the most powerful character. He's definitely beaten plenty of times by other characters. There is also some unanswered questions about how he survived some of those encounters, where I'm sure we'll get answers later. At least I hope we do. That would be wonderful if we could. Just some, because I have so many questions in general, but there's certain scenes where I'm just like, how, with his skill set, there may be forces at play that we don't see yet. It is like omnipotent third person, so I mean, it's not from first or second person. It's just kind of like, it's multiple characters. So anyway, but he doesn't, like, it doesn't resolve in a way where he is the top dog or he is the most magically, like, powerful or whatever by the end of the book. No. And it doesn't say anything about the potential of him becoming more powerful. It's more like he becomes very resourceful and has a lot of luck throughout the book on all these encounters. He's not like completely dim-witted or anything. It's just he's not the most knowledgeable character. He's literally learning a lot of things as he's going along, which is also refreshing because I don't know. I just don't like a character that comes to the story already like completely well crafted and perfectly like, aha, and then, oh no, challenge, but they defeat it, and because, yeah, like, it's very straight laced, and this is not straight laced, at least in my opinion, as far as character development. You're going through these motions with him, kind of, in a way. Like, he's facing a lot of emotions in a short amount of time that are very heavy and very real and very raw. And he also has to face a lot of his fears. And in some cases, he's like, nope, I'm out. And he just like, I'm gone. And he does. He leaves. Like, he's just like, nope, I'm done. This is beyond me. I'm not doing this. And I'm just like, I'm right there with you, buddy. Like, I wouldn't want to go through that either. Honestly, I do not blame you. Now, his interactions with certain characters, such as the huntsman, is very much millennial versus boomer. It's like me talking to my dad sometimes, except my dad's not incredibly violent like the huntsman. But anyway, so the huntsman kind of has this view of him like he's a coward. He's not a real man because he can't face his fears, type of thing. But the huntsman also, I mean, like, I felt this with my dad, honestly. My dad, like, is of the opinion of a certain mindset that, you're not a real man unless, or you're not really courageous unless blah, 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 blah. It's very frustrating for me because I do face my fears a lot. And yet there are some things where I'm like, nope, I'm not. And I am not ashamed. Like, I used to be ashamed. I was made to feel ashamed for walking away from something that completely overwhelmed me. Not anymore, because now it's zero bleeps given to the most of the world. It's just kind of like, nope, I don't care anymore. I have reached that limit. Grimsby has not quite reached that limit, and he hasn't quite found himself in all of this. It's more like he felt like a failure. He didn't advance like he thought he would, even though he wanted to for, his entire life. And then he's in a mundane lifestyle, doing bare minimum, and it's a hollow existence. And he does recognize that, but it's also a safe existence. It's also away from, once he gets a taste of all the danger, he's just like, why would I want to go towards this? Why would I want to do this? Like, no, that's insane. I'm insane. This is crazy. Um, a lot of his banter, a lot of his words, his expressions, his emotions that people might see as like humor. I'm like, I say a lot of the same things when I'm dealing with stress and anxiety. When my anxiety is through the roof, I might make inappropriately dark humor jokes, or I might say something out loud that I probably shouldn't have. Like it's or I will ramble constantly like I do in all my videos. But yeah, so I relate to him in that way. But throughout all this, there are subtle changes in his demeanor, in his outlook. He does walk away a few times from things. He does come back, mostly because he's a good person, because he doesn't want it to end the way that it could end, and that he tries to think on his feet. And for the most part, I commend this character as like, okay, I'm not the most powerful. I can't do these things. I am limited. I technically have a disability in some ways in this aspect. So what can I do in place of that? So that's how he becomes more resourceful. Like he seemed resourceful in the beginning anyway, because he has bare minimum wage. He is in a crappy apartment. Like, he's dealing with the most bare minimum and mundane and just lifeless kind of life. And that's the best way to describe it. And he can't afford anything. Like he's just going through that horrible, life that a lot of us go through, broke college students, single parents. Like you have to make things stretch. You have to make things last. You have to think in practicalities, because you have no luxury. You have no entitlement to anything beyond that. You don't have access to anything beyond that. So that is his mindset. Like I have to be practical about this. And so, yeah, he's resourceful in general in the beginning, but he becomes more resourceful as he is tested and pushed to his limits time and again, and then goes beyond his limits to the point where it's like, how am I even alive? Like, I'm pretty sure, even though he doesn't say that exactly, or he may have, I've begun rereading the book, but more slowly this time, because I was trying to breeze through it today because I was just like, oh, so caught up in it. But pretty much the sentiment is like, I shouldn't be alive. I really shouldn't because of everything that's happened. But there are these little subtle changes that I really would have turned tail by now, but instead I'm doing this. Like there's these like subtle differences that when you pause and think about it are very monumental to his development and his understanding of the world around him and other people too. And the sense of not realizing what I had until it's lost, and then trying to gain it back and realizing that this is what I've got to do, whether I gain it back or not. And whether I get what I want in the end, it doesn't matter, because this is more important. And he is a really nice guy though. Like I don't know, the way that I've reacted to things after kind of finding my voice. I'm a very big screw you to a lot of people in the world, and just like, I'm done with toxicity. I'm done with any of this angst. Even in the middle of anxiety or depression, if something outwardly comes towards me and tries to be like, I'm going to throw this at you, and I'm like, I'm having none of it. And yeah, I panic and I freak out, and sometimes I have a little cry, but then I get right back up and I'm like, nope, not happening. I'm going to batter you down and destroy you because I am not having any of it. This character is definitely not like that. So, he's a lot nicer than I am. He has empathy towards other creatures. Like that alliance he makes with the creature called Wudge. Wudge. I'm calling it Wudge. That's how I pronounced it. So that's what I read. So that's how I'm pronouncing it. I absolutely love that character. It's very much in line with any uncanny creature. Very sinister. Do not make bargains with it. That is bad. But it brings relief and comedy and humor, but not in a very like slapstick way, but in very subtle, like, screw you, in your face kind of way. Like, he is not very helpful for Grimsby in a lot of ways. He's helpful in very small ways and only when he wants to be. Um, and Grimsby, bless him. Yeah, like, poor guy. He definitely is out of his depth with a lot of this already. But when it comes to that creature, he learns as he goes along. I probably should not have made that bargain. I probably should not have done this. I probably should not have done that. And it's like, okay, I'm starting to wise up a little bit by the end of the book towards this creature. And this is what he wants. No, I'm not going to bargain that. Nope, that's not worth it. Like, he's just too tired by the end of the book, honestly. Would any of us be any less? Seriously, after everything he goes through. But I want to see more of Wedge. I really want to see more of Wedge. I definitely have a feeling, well, yeah, we're going to see more of Huntsman. I definitely have a feeling of that. But I really think that the development between, not just Grimsby and himself, but Grimsby and the Huntsman. Ooh, it's not just millennial versus boomer. It's like a parent versus a child, but not in the conventional way. It's not even found family. That's the thing too, is that it's not like they have this incredible strong bond by the end of the book. No, there's still contention. And I love it. I love that. I love that kind of friction between them. But it's like a work in development. Like, they're working on it, and maybe some semblance of actual friendship, like friendship will arise. But now it's like a tenuous sort of strained relationship that could border on friendship or could have been considered friendship, and then there's just too much that happened. So we're feeling it out by the end of the book, right? But to get to that point, that development, oh, I love the interactions between them. I love the words. I love how Huntsman is definitely like damn these kids type of like, you young whippersnappers type of mentality. Like, there's a point where Grimsby mentions GPS and the Huntsman's just like, what? Total confusion. Like, what's GPS? And I'm just like, okay. That's not entirely my dad. My dad does know a little bit about technology. But he's only slightly worse than I am. I'm not the most tech savvy, but even I know a bit more than my dad in some areas. And it's like, and my dad was an engineer, okay? He was an aerospace engineer. So he's definitely smart and knew a few things, but certain simplistic tasks took him a bit longer. And yeah, so that was just the mindset I think that Huntsman has, is just like, it's too much trouble. I don't want to deal with it. I like the simpler way of this or that. I like this or that. It's just easier. I don't have to deal with anything extenuating past this point, right? Then there are other characters. I mean, those characters are the three main ones I mentioned, but there is some development between other characters that I'm very curious about what their role will be in the future, and also what their real role was in this book, because it seemed like some characters, like Finley, seems like a side character or more like a background character, but seems like there's some more importance there than initially believed. I think it's the way that she worded things on the phone with the Huntsman that really kind of caught my attention. I was like, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And I know, like, I may be reading into things, especially since this is just the first book, but it seems like there's more there, and there's probably more of a backstory too, with Finley and the Huntsman knowing each other and why and how, even though there's a brief description. So yeah, and then of course there's Rain, the potential love interest of Grimsby, or more like he has feelings, but they could be like, she may not reciprocate. So I mean, I don't know. She doesn't really give off anything when it comes to Grimsby. We don't see anything from her point of view in a way, like when it comes to Grimsby. So that may change. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more to her as well than just the love interest of Grimsby, as in, like, he had these feelings for her at one point, and sometimes he still thinks about it. But again, that's not the focal point of the story. But I mean, there is thrown in there little, like a smattering of just like, yeah, there's a little sprinkle of like, his thoughts towards her and his feelings towards her. But I feel like there's more to her than we saw in this book, and I would really like to see more of her in future books. So I hope that's the case. I hope so, because it just, especially at the end with the twist, I won't tell you what it is, but the twist, I was just like, oh, I have so many questions, and I hope Rain becomes a part of the answers to those questions. I really hope so, because I would love to see that. So yeah, so yeah, again, this is lengthy. It was going to be lengthy from the beginning. Okay, so I talked about character development and interactions, definitely murder mystery thriller, some suspense, lots of unanswered questions. I underscored lots of unanswered questions that I have about this. There's just enough breadcrumbs to stave off complete literary hunger. And then, yeah, dare I say it, I enjoyed it more than the Dresden Files. Is that sacrilegious? Am I going to get in trouble? I hope not. Please don't, like, hate me for saying that out loud. But I don't know. I like that there's this character that is thrown to the wolves. He's not the most powerful. He doesn't become the most powerful by the end. But he learns a few tips and tricks along the way. And so there are some things that go in his favor, which honestly, it's subtle. It doesn't seem like much unless you've read a lot of mythology or like fairy tale or, fantasy stuff that revolve around the uncanny or fae. But I will spoil this one thing. So Grimsby is kind of caught in a bargain with Wudge, right? Wudge pushes him to the point where it's like, either you call in this favor now, or I'll kill you later. And when he does that, when he fulfills that bargain, like Wudge says, you fulfill your bargain. Now give me the item I want. And Huntsman is definitely against this. Huntsman does not like Wudge. He doesn't like pretty much any of the creatures because he's not a witch, like, the unorthodox. And he's definitely not happy about what's been going on. Or rather, I mean, technically unorthodox. I mean, they're in that category as witch, right? But anyway, Huntsman's against Grimsby going along with the bargain, right? Like, okay, fulfill the bargain, but I don't want you actually going through with it. Grimsby does. He gives the item to Wudge. He does what he's supposed to do, what he promised to do. And even though he doesn't know if it's the right thing, like ultimately he still felt like it was the right thing to do in that moment, is to fulfill the bargain and actually, do what he promised. And he's kind of really honorable in that way. And even though it doesn't sort itself out the way that you would expect from that bargain, Wedge comes back and kind of becomes an ally to Grimsby in a moment where Grimsby feels like all else is lost, that there's no going back from this. And Wudge kind of gives him a second leg in this. Like he's pretty much points him in the right direction. And honestly, I think it's because Grimsby was kind to him after the fact. Like, okay, the bargain's fulfilled, but he's also kind to this creature, and he is caring in this creature's time of need or time of distraught emotions. And really, if you think about it, that's kind of like the karmic balance that, like you fulfilled your promise and you were also kind on top of that, without needing or being expected to be kind to this creature that definitely has more power over you, or could exert more power given the right circumstances. And you know what, by showing that kindness, it comes back to you in full, and it helps Grimsby in this time of need. So I like that. It's like a subtle nod to karmic balance and to the fae. Like, if you give a favor, if you help them, they will help you. Now, granted, the uncanny don't always help you back in the way you would expect. So you have to be very specific with them. But in this case, in this instance, it was simply that kindness was offered and then kindness was given. Not in the way that Grimsby expected, but definitely in the way that he needed. So I like that. I like that a lot. It's very true to mythology in this case. And just the way that uncanny creatures are. So yeah, I really like that. But yeah, I love this book. I already started rereading it again. I'll take my time this time, I think. Like I'll go nice and easy and slow. So it'll probably take me it took me all day today because I have work and other things. So it may take me close to more than a day if I include sleeping, which isn't very much because I don't sleep very much each night. But yeah, I'll definitely take my time this time. Maybe suss out some more breadcrumbs. I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Yeah, this is a very lengthy review. I told you in the beginning it was going to be. But that's just kind of how I am. So it's not just the story, it's not just the quirks or the humor or the suspense or thrills or anything. Like there's all that, but more than anything, I love that the character developed the way it did. The main character. I love that it wasn't just a preternatural, like secretly they've had this power and it was unlocked. And I mean, I don't mind reading that stuff, but it feels so overdrawn. And while I do love Harry Dresden, I really love Harry Dresden, I do. It feels like each book, he becomes more and more powerful, more secrets are unlocked, and it's like a power up. It's like literally Dragon Ball Z power up in my mind. That's just like I love anime. I love Dragon Ball Z. I love Sailor Moon. I love it, but this hero thing where they just power up constantly, and it seems like it's just a sudden thing. It doesn't feel like it's earned half the time, and Grimsby feels like maybe there is potential for him to become more powerful. I don't know. Maybe there is something there that we don't know that we can't see. But this book, the ending wasn't like a neat little bow. And yes, I know there's supposed to be more books, but it doesn't feel like he's going to be suddenly powerful or suddenly blah blah or at the weakest moment brah, and he triumphs. No, it wasn't like that. And I love that. I love it. It's so refreshing. I can't emphasize enough how frustrated I am to read characters that just come in this mold. And maybe their features change, maybe their personalities changed a little bit, but the same hero trope has been played so often. And it's just, I want a character that reacts naturally. Like, even if he knows he's not the most powerful and he's afraid, rightfully so. He starts to progress when it comes to facing certain fears, but I mean, he's still not the most powerful player, and I love that. I love that he's not the most powerful compared to some other characters. I love that there are handicaps, but he finds a way still because he has a resourceful nature. And I think that speaks to me in that I have disabilities, and some of them you can see, some of them you can't. And it sometimes feels like there's no way around it. But there is, I just have to be creative about it. And sometimes I need help in doing so. So I've learned to reach out for help. And I think that's where people get stuck. They think that there's no way to move forward, right? If you have a certain disability, you think that there's nothing past that, and that's not true. So this is kind of a bit like a very hopeful kind of novel for me. It feels very hopeful at the end, at least in my mind it does, because I relate to certain aspects of it. So it made me feel hopeful about my life. Like I don't have a mundane life. I just have a very stressful life. handling two kids that have ADHD, and I'm pretty sure I do. I still need to get that looked at. But either way, like and then I'm doing this on my own, struggling financially. I'm always struggling financially in some aspect. Um, I get through some hurdles, some good things come my way, and then a whole bunch of bad. And it's just like, it's a constant. It's just constant. So you get stressed and you get very tired and you just want to give in. You just want to just be like, nope, I'm done. There is something that keeps you going. And I'm not saying that I didn't have hope before, that this book suddenly gave me hope for everything in my life. No. But it just it gave me that warm feeling, that there is hope, that it's not the end when it comes to certain disabilities, that there is a way. It may not seem like it, but there is a way. And yeah, all this entire video to say that I really love this novel. I completely recommend it. I'll stop talking now because I've talked a lot. And this is a very long movie. Not movie, video. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I said movie. It might as well be a movie with how long it is. It's like a short movie. But anyway, yeah. So hopefully I will see my review online. Like, I'm looking online. I'm like, hopefully they'll approve I literally did not have any more characters left. I wrote mostly gushing appreciation for Grimsby, which, if you're an avid reader, if you've fallen in love with fictional characters, I'm right there with you. But I really fell hard for Grimsby. I was like, oh my goodness, I absolutely love this character. I love that there's potential for him, but I love that he's very realistic to how a person would react in those kind of situations, and that he pushes himself through a lot of introspection throughout the entire book. Like, he's literally facing down all these emotions, and some of it he doesn't want to, but technically he does, because a lot of it's internal and he's going through all this and he's trying to process it. And some of it he doesn't process. Some of it I'm sure we'll see him processing in another book. But I absolutely love that. I love seeing that in character. It made me so happy, and I'm just like, why can't he be real? That's what I always wonder. Why can't a fictional character ever be real? Why? I have some of my own characters that I'm writing where I'm like, really wish you were real. That would be so awesome. Because I'm madly in love with them and I wish they were real. But okay, anyway, I'm done. Sorry, just go buy the book. Just read it. It's really awesome. And it doesn't follow a specific, trope that's out there, and it's refreshing, and I love it. And there is enough, brevity, shortness of the scenes. Like, it's not lengthy descriptions. It's very sweet and short and to the point. So it's not like elaborate. Like, I love Tolkien, but he's very elaborate with his descriptions, and it's not lengthy like that. Not lengthy like these videos. So it's very boom, 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 boom. Okay, so it's not like long-winded at all. So not like me. So you should definitely go try it. And okay, I'm gonna try to sleep. I may not sleep because I started rereading the book and I kind of really want to read it some more, but I will attempt sleep. So goodbye.